Nathan, who do you think standing out to you right now?
Yeah, first, just talking about the big losses, we lost Aaron Fuller and Andre Bocellia. They both kind of showed glimpses of being something more than just a role player kind of on the team, but key drops in key situations kind of always was the story with them. So UW's kind of looking for the next great receiver. I mean, in my opinion, we haven't had a star wide receiver tandem since 2016 with Dante Pettis and John Ross, who combined for almost 2,000 yards and 32 touchdowns in 1 year. So let's hope that that comes up soon. And the guy that I'm looking at is probably going to be Terrell Bynum, just for the wide receiver one, especially to start the year. He's the most veteran player on their team at wide receiver, as they actually only have two seniors and two juniors. Last year, Terrell Bynum, he had 31 catches, 368 yards, and only two touchdowns. So he wasn't really, that impressive, but he's got the experience that will probably lock him in as the number one receiver. The other two guys that I'm looking at, though, is Puka Nacua, and of course, we've got Ty Jones returning from an injury that he had. So do you want to start talking about someone?
I think Ty Jones had that wrist injury.
Last year he had a wrist injury that caused him to only play in like 4 games or something.
Yeah, in good news though, his last full season that he played, so his sophomore year, he was running 491 yards and 6 touchdowns as a sophomore. So that's really good news to have him back. Terrell Bynum too. I mean, he doesn't have like the best like flashy stats like catches, touchdowns, receiving yards. However, I think really interesting was that in his last 6 games, he was averaging 55 yards a game. It's like not the best, but I mean like it's doable to get things done. But the one I was really excited about was that Fuller and Cade Otton, those 2 tight ends, are the only 2 people on the team with lower drop rate percentages, but he currently has the highest first down percentage based off of catches on the UW team. And he also has a disgusting broken tackle rate. And so I'm really excited to see him come in. I definitely think he's going to be starting in that receiving corps, if not within that rotation. Whether or not he gets started at the wideout or in the slot, I mean, that remains to be seen with where these other guys come in, like Puka. I mean, you have Marquise Spiker, you have Austin Osborne, you have all of these new guys that have been coming in. And these guys are big, they're fast. And like, it's one of those groups, I feel like, for recruiting classes for this year, coming with all these new guys where they don't really need that size or that like endurance or that conditioning aspect as much. When you see the other prospects coming in, these guys really just need technique. I mean, Jalen McMillan, number 11 receiving prospect in the country, number 67 overall. He's been compared to Keenan Allen with the guy with his route running and the speed he currently has. We've got a guy named Rome, number 39 for the receiving group in the nation, has been quoted multiple times as having blistering speed with a 6'3", 205-pound frame. Like that's as a guy coming in, that's insane, I think. And that's really good to have, I think, coming out of a really funky season like this one that we're about to have. And having these older guys, definitely seeing Terrell Bynum get a lot of snaps in there, seeing Puka get a lot of snaps in there. And then from there, it's really going to be who comes in at 3, who comes in at 4. And I think that's where the big debates are. I think you're pretty much in agreement with me there.
Yeah, I think the key thing is really like the depth. The Huskies have such great depth at wide receiver. And really the reason that I picked as my top 3, Ty Jones, Aaron Fuller, and then Puka Nacua, is just because they're kind of veterans. They kind of have the most experience on the Husky team. Puka Nacua being the least of that, as it's only his 2nd year. But in his freshman year, Nacua kind of shined. I mean, he averaged 24 yards per catch. He had some key catches, especially against the Oregon game. He had a touchdown that put him up 14 in the 3rd quarter. We all know how that ended, sadly, though. And especially the Huskies are a team that in recent history, they've kind of favored veterans over these young guys, which maybe now with Jimmy Lake, that might change. And I kind of hope it changes. Because you mentioned them, Jalen McMillan and Rome Odunze. They are 2 4-star freshmen who I think are going to have great college careers and maybe even great NFL careers. I look at Jalen McMillan. You kind of compared him to Keenan Allen. I almost compare him to CeeDee Lamb. I think they're very similar. They have kind of similar measurables, both about 6'1", 6'2", 190 pounds. And I watched CeeDee Lamb's high school highlight tape and then Jalen's high school highlight tape. And what they both excelled at is after the catch, they're very elusive and very hard to take down. So maybe Jalen McMillan will play like CeeDee Lamb. I hope he does, because that would be great. But looking at the veterans, you've got to probably think that they'll have a key role, especially early on.
Yeah, I agree with the Bynum pick. I agree with the